Now, the Romans were meticulous in their record keeping, especially with wards of Rome, because they had to pay taxes. And these taxes included a death tax, a burial tax, and a witness tax. So a Roman official was there to not only collect these taxes, but also to make sure that the grave was now sealed with Roman government approval. Pontius Pilate sent one of his court personnel, administrators, who was also a court recorder, whose name was Cyrilius. And so Cyrilius was present at this funeral. And he was present primarily to seal the deal and to collect the taxes. But he was also there to record historically about everything that had happened and what was taking place. So I'm going to refer to some of the writings of Cyrilius as we paint this picture of Lazarus and Jesus and what happened. Cyrilius told us that on the day of that funeral, there were over 3,000 people that showed up. 3,000 to pay their respects to this great man, Lazarus. Perhaps he was the administrator of the almshouse, the hospital. We don't know. But he had enough that there were 3,000 there. Then he talks about this man this rabbi, who was from the Galilee, but who was friends of the family of Lazarus, Jesus by name. And he seems to come to comfort the girls primarily. And then he told one of the girls, Martha, Martha was 14 years old, told her to remove the stone. Well, that stone only weighed about 500 pounds. And Jesus did not offer to help her. He just told her what to do. We don't know how the stone got pulled away, but we do know that it did. And then Cyrilius made this statement. And then the rabbi from the Galilee, he stood in the open top chamber, or outside of the open top chamber. And to the top of his lungs, he screamed, "Lazarus, come forth!" And then he stood and he waited. Now, according to the Word of God, the next thing we see is Lazarus standing in the front open door of the top chamber. But he still had his mummy outfit on. Okay? How did he get there? Now, Jesus didn't wiggle his nose and poof, there he was. Jesus did things naturally. Supernatural, natural. Okay. Lazarus was wrapped up with 18 layers of linen. He couldn't bend his knees. He couldn't use his arms. And he was in a box that was sealed. The first job was to get the box sealed, to get the top of the box off. And how do you do that? You bump your head against it for a while? We don't know. But eventually he got the top off, and then he rolled out of this thing. But then once he rolled out, he was dead when they brought him down there. So where are the stairs? I don't know. I was dead when I came down here. So then now he has to find the stairs. And once he finds the stairs, then he has to get up the stairs. And he can't move his knees. So what do? Just. And how many times do you fall back down and start all over again? Cyrilius tells us that Jesus stood in his position in front of the open door without saying another word for 3.5 hours. Okay? Now, the only thing Lazarus had to go on was Jesus' voice one time that he heard when he was dead. Lazarus didn't hear the voice of Jesus again. You know, so many of us believers today, we think we have to hear the voice of God at least every 3 hours, or else, Lord, don't you still love me? Don't you care, Lord? But Lazarus didn't hear it again. And he had to go to his light, to his life, by hearing the voice of Jesus one time only. Jesus had done his job. He had given him a new heart. He had given him new life. The old things were passed away and all things were new. He gave him a new vision, new eyes. He gave him a new way of talking with a new tongue, a new way of thinking with a new brain, new breath in this new body with new lungs. So Jesus had done everything that he needed to do. But Lazarus was still bound up. Even when he got to the door, the freedom that was there, he was still bound up. And Jesus did not loosen those bands. But he looked over at the girls, and he looked over at the friends, and those that were there that were left, and told them, you loose him. Now, interesting scenario. Some of the people that were there were saying, we got him now. We don't care if he goes to the mental institution or to prison. We have him. This is it. There were others that were there that says, you know, I was really beginning to believe in this man. But now, I don't much think so. So they left. Others were there, and they said, what happened? He healed the blinded eyes. He walked on water. He cleansed the lepers. Why was this a failure? I don't know. I'll have to think about this. They left. But the ones who stayed, which were just under 500, those who stayed were eyewitnesses to one of the greatest miracles that has ever happened in the history of mankind. The ones who stayed when there was no reason to stay, when there was no guarantee that anything would get better, and that seems like the only thing that was happening is just more insanity. Jesus told those friends, loose him. You know, this church on Fridays and well throughout your ministry here in Amarillo, you have a lot of people come through those doors that has a whole bunch of bondage. They come in with a lot of baggage, with their eyes covered with a napkin, and layer after layer after layer after layer of garbage. Well, you can take your chainsaw and try to cut it off all at once. But when you do that, you run the possibility of killing them spiritually, running them off, and they never, ever will recover. Or you take one layer at a time and remove it. Now that's where it takes patience. We've learned that in Egypt. We've been there 30 years. We minister in Egypt as well as use Egypt as a springboard to go into other Islamic countries. And boy, you talk about bondage. When some of those folks come and accept Jesus, shoo, they got stuff in their lives that is beyond your comprehension, beyond our comprehension. And sometimes the only thing you can do is just to tell them, I love you. We'll start there. They don't have new believers follow-up courses. They're now among the halls of the persecuted. They've accepted Jesus, and they've turned their back on Allah and Muhammad. So now they're the enemy. The only thing they have is the bandages. But they know that their Jesus died for them. You know, in the Islamic world, when some of the persecuted are scheduled to be their last day on earth, 2 witnesses are called. You have one witness of a believer, which would be an Islamic person. Then the other witness is an infidel. And I have been called as the infidel witness on numerous occasions. It's not too far-fetched to say that your night is ruined, certainly after that. There's pounding on the doors at 2 o'clock in the morning, handcuffed, come with me. And when you get to that appointed place, there would be your friends there. They're standing there handcuffed. And now that the witnesses are there, they can go through with the bullet to the brain or the knife across the throat. And inevitably, the first question that they ask when I get there, inevitably, is, does Jesus still love me? You say, absolutely. They don't ask, then what am I doing here? They don't ask, then why was I arrested? They don't ask, then why hasn't he delivered me? They're satisfied with the answer that yes, Jesus loves you. That's it. That's enough. But then the next question, always, is Jesus here? Absolutely. He'll never leave you, and he'll never forsake you. Now, you may be meeting him in just a few seconds. And if so, he'll take you in his arms, and he'll hug you, and he'll love you. If you live to see another day, then you have to wait. And these folks come with baggages that you would not believe, but Jesus still loves them anyway. And as they die for him, they die with the joy of knowing that their God cares very much. 3,000 people began, 500 stayed. And those 500 were responsible for then taking care of releasing the bonds of this man who was once dead, but now he's alive. You know, we had a situation that happened when Muslim Brotherhood came into as the government of Egypt. In 5 garbage cities, 4 million people lived who had turned their back on Islam and accepted Jesus, but that was their home. Well, when Muslim Brotherhood came in, some of the real zealous hotshots, they said, we are going to exterminate Christianity once and for all. We will clear out the garbage cities, and we will burn down the villages. And they had some support. But some of the cooler heads told the new president, you can't do that. If you do that, every government in the world will become your enemy. What we recommend is to pick one village. If we do that, if we eliminate the one village, America will be upset, Britain will be upset, we'll be condemned by the United Nations, but 2 weeks later, everything will be back to normal. So that's what they determined to do. They went out, sent representatives out to the village, and told them what was going to happen on a certain date. They would be eliminated, and they had to get their house in order, get their souls in order, because this is what's going to happen. Well, I was in Dubai. I got a call from one of these guys and telling me what was happening, and they wanted me to come back to see what I could do about stopping it. And I said, what can I do? I mean, you're talking about the government. What can I do? But I felt led to go back anyway. And so I called my wife and told her what was going on. And on my flight back to Cairo, I started reading these portions in John, the 11th chapter. And the thing that exploded in my brain and I couldn't get away from is, this is not unto death. I couldn't figure out how, how was this not going to be unto death, since it had already been established, already been proclaimed, the date had already been set, everything had been done. It's too late. But it wouldn't go away. This is not unto death. I felt along the way I needed to meet with the terrorist groups. Excuse me. Muslim Brotherhood was the administrative government at that time, but they also had working with them Al-Qaeda, Hamas and Hezbollah, and portions of ISIS. And so I said, the Holy Spirit said, you need to meet with these guys. I said, why? When I landed, I made arrangements, and later on that day, I met with these terrorists in a public place, needless to say. And when I walked in, I extended my hand. The guy from Al-Qaeda was the spokesman. Introduced myself, and he didn't shake my hand. He said, "We know who you are. Now, what do you want?" And I said, "Well, I need your permission for something." Permission? What do you mean permission? And then he held out his hand. He says, "You see this? You are standing in my hand. And at any time I want to, I can crush you. And that should cause you great, great fear." And I said, "Yeah, you're right. Except you have one thing wrong. I am standing in a hand, but the hand I'm standing in is the hand of God. And only He can crush me. And that should cause you great fear." He says, "What do you want?" I said, like I said, I need your permission. For what? I said, I have some people that I want to help. Well, if they're people that you want to help, they must be Christian. I said, I'm not going to tell you that. But this is what I want from you. You know, we've been accustomed to, for 25 years, we're followed all the time. They stay out in front of our house, our flat, and they tap our telephone. We can't even go to the market without them being there. They follow us continually and hassle and do all of this stuff. And I told them, I said, I want you to leave me alone for 2 days and 2 nights. Just leave me alone. No one follows me. No one listens to my phone. No one goes behind me in a car. No one stays in front of my house. No one. For 2 days and 2 nights. He says, you think I have this authority? I said, yes. What I know is this, is that whoever you say lives, they live. Whoever you say die, they die. And now I'm asking you for this permission to do this, that I can function without your interference. You recognize my authority? I said, yes, I do. And you think I can fulfill this? I said, yes. He said, okay. You cannot ask for anything more, but I will give you 2 days and 2 nights. And he was, unbelievably, he was true to his word. He left me alone. I went out to the village, talked to them, and told them, I want you to be ready 2 nights from now, around midnight. We're going to get out of here. I called my wife. She started having people all over the world pray that the Lord would make me invisible. So I hired 100 camels. There were, and when I showed up with the camels at the village, there were 127 people there. So we had to double up. But you know, we've been in Egypt for, like I said, 30 years. And I have never seen fog in the desert. Never. I've never. But that night, it was so foggy that I could barely see the ears of my camel. You could see nothing. So we got to the appointed place, and the people cleared out the village, and I got on the camels, and I was going to take them down to Chad to be delivered to some Bedouin believers down there who would take care of them. And so the first checkpoint in the desert we came to was a Muslim Brotherhood checkpoint. And the only thing he saw was that I was riding a camel. Then he heard other camels back there. He says, what are you doing? He said, what are you doing with these? He said, how many camels do you have? I said, I have 100. 100 camels. What? Give me your purchase receipt. I said, I have no purchase receipt. I hired these. And he said, you have contraband? I said, no contraband. Guns? No guns. We have to check. And so he sent his men down the row of camels. While he was doing that, I started complaining to God. I said, Lord, my wife has been praying that I be invisible. And I am not invisible. They saw me. They talked to me. And now they're going to find these people, and I'm going to be arrested. They're going to be arrested. And now we did all of this for nothing. Said these people will die before the night is over. So he came back. He said, is this all? I said, what you see is what I have. He says, go. And so the Lord chose not to make me visible. He just chose to make the people invisible. And whether it was because of the thick fog or because God gave the soldiers blinders or he put walls up so no one could see them, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But they were delivered safely. And the Lord was glorified. There are those times that you'll be dealing with these people that the situation will be helpless and helpless. But it's during that time that we rely upon his word when he tells us to do it, and that he will provide the means and the way and the opportunity. Pastor, thank you so much.